The Beat on the Beat with Dean Jackson and the Supreme Team. This is a slightly awkward one, because I feel the need to do a bit of a history lesson, because we got lots of people listening to the programme who are kind of just discovering new music for the first time. Lots of people listening who've been listening for a very long time. So if you're in the latter category, bear with me for a second. This isn't meant to patronise, but it's just to give a bit of background to what's about to happen. The Manic Street Preachers are a band that formed back in the late 1980s, and in the early days of the Beat, which started in the 90s, they were very good to us. They were a very notable band. I mean, it's difficult kind of to explain what a big band they were at that time, isn't it, Tom? Really, what a significant band they were.
It's the effect they've had on their fans' lives in particular. They inspire kind of I don't know what it is, a real love in their fans, and there'll be a lot of people like myself who the Manics have been a very, very important part of their life. Exactly.
And if we look at the history books and we look at well, what's happening, whether chart-wise or otherwise, with modern music, there are very few bands who started out at that time that are still going, let alone still enjoying the success that the Manics are.
And still relevant as well.
Very relevant, yeah. Now, we did lots of interviews with the Manics back in their early days, and at the time their lead singer was Richey Edwards. Richey went missing on the 1st of February 1995, and it was a very tough, obviously, goes without saying, a very tough time for the band. Because the four of them went to school together, they'd grown up together, really, really, really close mates. Richey went missing, and you know, if you put Richey Edwards into any search engine, you'll find out how many web pages there are speculating about what happened to him and all the rest of it. He's spoken of in the same way as Ian Curtis and Kurt Cobain in many ways, isn't he?
It's just that troubled soul who wrote dark but beautiful lyrics.
Exactly. Now, the latter lyrics that he wrote before he disappeared, before he went missing, he gave to Nicky. Nicky has never spoken about this before. Earlier in the week, I spoke to both Nicky and James Dean Bradfield, because what they've done is they've taken those lyrics from Richey Edwards and they've put them to music in an album called Journal for Plague Lovers. You'll hear part one of that interview. It's a highly significant interview, as you'll hear. We go there with one of the tracks from this album. It's called Journal for Plague Lovers. This is track 2 from it. It's called Jackie Collins' Existential Question Time. Nicky Wyatt, James Dean Bradfield, welcome back to The Beat.
Hello, it's good to be back.
Hello.
Congratulations on what is a very, very fine album indeed. I put it into the CD player with a degree of trepidation and nervousness, I have to be honest, but congratulations.
I think quite a few people have felt the same way. Maybe we even did making it originally, but I think we've pulled off a pretty fitting tribute, and we feel pretty good about it at the moment.
Well, you've every right to, absolutely every right to. Just to be clear, what proportion of the lyrics on there were given to you by Richey, would you say?
Yeah, they're all entirely Richey's. It's not like any other album we've ever done, because even the Holy Bible I chipped in with maybe 20% and some titles, but every title, every line on this record is from the lyrics Richey left us.
Without any editing?
There's bits of editing. A lot of them are really good lyrics anyway, where you just take out a couple of lines. You know, they were written as lyrics, a lot of them, but then something like William's last words was about a page and a half. But generally, you know, he loved the art of lyric writing, and that's where he kind of left us.
So did he actually hand the notebook with these in to you directly? Is that what happened?
Yes, he did. A couple of weeks, I think. It might have even been less time, but it's round about, you know, a couple of weeks to 3 weeks, or maybe 10 days at the least. Yeah, we did a last sort of session of demos. We did No Surface All Feeling, bits of Kevin Carter, Small Black Flowers That Grow in the Sky. So quite a few of the bits for Everything Must Go, and that was the last time, and that's when he gave us the lyrics.
I'll tell you what I really like about this album, because it would be really easy, I think, not easy, that's the wrong word, but there could have been a tendency to make it quite a dark album or quite an introspective album. But actually there's some lovely light moments on here as well, I think. There's some moments that are very, very uplifting, and thank you for doing that, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe at the start I was the worst person. I was pushing us more Holy Bible, you know, the natural follow-up and stuff, and I think James made a really good decision to let the lyrics dictate more, because the lyrics are not as angry and as internalized as Holy Bible. There is more serenity in his lyrics, and therefore I think you get a kind of an acoustic side with William's last words and Joke Sports Severed and Facing Page top left. You get a chance for the album to breathe, and sometimes there's a calmness to the lyrics that kind of I think James felt he was just following the path, letting the lyrics dictate his moods.
I was going through our archive a few weeks ago, and I discovered one of 2 interviews I did with Richey, actually, going way back. Yeah, and what struck me listening back to it was actually just what a great frame of mind he was in when I was doing the interview, and how jovial he was, because that's something that it's sometimes easy to forget, you know.
People never get that with us. I mean, we had the last 8 months around the Holy Bible, which was, everyone knows it was pretty bleak. It wasn't the best time of our lives, but you grow up kicking a football with someone since the age of 5. We all go to the same school, university, getting hammered together, in Swansea Uni, making clothes together, eating Fray Bentos pies. It's kind of the stuff that you never associate with Manic Street Preachers, but there was loads of that. There was loads of humour, there was loads of fun. I guess the dark stuff tended to overshadow.
And also, I suppose, with Richey, people never kind of assume the reality, which was that whenever he turned up from an interview, he was just unbelievably cordial to people, and he was always punctual. All those very kind of all those very ordinary things people don't associate with him. And he did have a very kind of sly, lilting sense of humour sometimes. And of course, a lot of those things get left behind in the kind of what you would call the movification of somebody.
Well, the other thing that struck me as well was the fact that actually I was a very young and naive interviewer at the time, and probably wasn't the best interview in the world. And he actually made it very good for me. Yeah, I think he was being very kind to me, actually. and at the end of it, I said to him, "And would you mind doing an ident?" Which is something I would never dare ask any band. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, we say happy second birthday to the Beat, please." And he did it. I couldn't believe it. I think, oh my goodness, did you really ask him to do that?
No, I mean, we were all really. We had this the sort of public persona of rampaging sort of punks, if you know what I mean, and lacerating or cutting his arm and all those kind of things. But we were all sort of well brought up, punctual, polite people, from a really healthy working class background.
BBC Radio Nottingham.
You know so little about me.
The track is Peeled Apples, coming from the new Manic Street Preachers album, Journal for Plague Lovers. The lyrics written by Richey Edwards, and the music put together by the other 3 band members, and I caught up with them earlier in the week. You worked with Steve Albini on this album. Was that just a kind of a no-brainer, really, that you were going to do that?
It felt like it definitely feels like a no-brainer now we've finished the record. I think, I don't know if I'm imagining this, but I think we even might have talked of working with Steve Albini when Richey was around.
Yeah, because of In Utero, definitely.
And Nick had harbored an ambition for it, to work with him for a long time, and he did seem like the obvious choice for this, because we arrived at the studio with demos and arrangements. We knew that we didn't want a producer to even vaguely imagine that he could actually alter any lyrics, obviously, because they were Richey's word and they're the one things that were just written in, they were etched in stone. And also we had some notion of wanting to preserve the purity of the songs we'd written. And just taking on the responsibility of representing Richey just felt like a heavy task, at the start. And Steve Albini is famous for just walking into the studio very prepared, and he's got a great poker face. He just asks you to perform. He'll take care of the sonics, and he just has a brutal honesty in the studio, and that's why we used him, because he just cared about the sonics and he didn't care about anything else. He never said to me, "Wow, I can't understand some of the words you're singing." Because the nature of some of Richey's words are very, very convulsed, and that's why we chose him, because we knew that he would step out of the way at certain times, but he would actually make the record sound as we heard it in our heads. And he's famous for keeping that focus and purity to the work he does.
There is a track right at the end of the album, tagged on to the end of William's Last Words, and I'm very grateful again that you put that there, because William's Last Words does leave you with quite a heavy heart, actually, and quite deep thoughts. And then that last track is on there, and it does, I don't know whether this is what it was intended to do, but it kind of resets your mind somehow. That's what it did to me anyway.
In all honesty, it's quite a trivial kind of petty rock and roll kind of idea, because the Holy Bible had 13 songs. We wanted to have that symmetry. Unfortunately, we had 14, that extra track you're talking about. So, and also In Utero, which is one of our benchmarks, also had a secret track. So it was more of a kind of rock and roll mythology thing. And that particular track, Bag Lady, is, it's one of the more Holy Bible-esque, aggressive, but a really brilliant lyric, almost I think it's Richey sort of paraphrasing someone he's been listening to when he was maybe in hospital when he'd had a bad episode. So it's a really interesting lyric. It's really complex, but it sounds like we are off the leash on there. It really, it sounds like there's so much energy on there. And like I said, I think that just may come from when you are 27, when Richey was writing these words, you kind of, if you're writing music to them, you do have to be incredibly intense, and as you get older, sometimes that goes. If I'm writing the lyrics, perhaps we don't get that intensity, so it did feel like a privilege to be able to use his words.
Is that really the case, do you think? Because, some of your lyrics are still, they're still pretty hot, aren't they? I think you may be doing yourself down there a little,
I know, it's just that...
Send Away the Tigers had its moments, didn't it?
That's a great album. Look, as a commercial edifice, Richey, I am a huge fan of his words, but, he would have probably ruined Design for Life because he would have made it so complicated and so much reference lyrically, whereas I'm much more concise and more social history. I'm not kind of doing myself down, it's just he can go to places that I can't go. When you're married and you have children and stuff like that, things change, and it'd be pretty pathetic if I tried to write lyrics like him.
It's Saturday night. It's BBC Radio Nottingham, and it's the Beat on the Beeb with Dean Jackson and the team.
One Dangerous and Merrow song, listen out for that on BBC Six Music, being played fairly shortly as well. A great band who we've had a lot to do with over the years, and turning into quite a success now, and well deserved it is too. It's The Beat with Dean Jackson and the Supreme Team. The Manic Street Preachers have a new album out in a couple of weeks' time. It's called Journal for Plague Lovers. The lyrics were written by Richey Edwards before he went missing in 1995. He left them with Nicky and James Dean Bradfield, and earlier in the week I caught up with them. I was reading an account of the new album written by John Niven, which is a very well-crafted piece of writing, actually. But one of the sentences in there says, and the Manic Street Preachers are not sentimental people. I find that really hard to believe. He's got that wrong, surely.
Well, I think a lot of people have asked us the questions, as to when we were singing, or I was singing certain songs in the studio, or when Nick was singing the vocal to William's last words. They're kind of curious as to know whether we had a lump in our throat or whether a tear rolled down our cheek. And I understand that kind of question, or that kind of being inquisitive about the process of interpreting Richey's lyrics and performing them. But we tend not to have those moments when we're actually doing the work. I think the actual hard yards of as they say in rugby, of just doing the work and just trying to perform them and carry off the responsibility of doing Richey justice kind of takes over. Some kind of, perhaps his academic approach to the way he used to write lyrics and the way he just really, really, really worked at it, perhaps that rubs off on us when we're in the studio, and it doesn't allow any kind of sentimentality to come to the surface.
We all have kind of ways to store things. James has a magic carpet that he just sweeps things under.
Big old rug.
I have capacity in my mind to block certain things off. It's probably not psychologically that healthy, but I think we've learned to accept it. I think it's the way Manic Street Preachers deal with things. It's not, it's a generational thing.
How do you feel now the album is about to be released? Is there a sense that something has been purged, something that's been there for a long time? Because clearly this must have been at the back, if not the fore of your mind, for a good few years.
I think the big thing is that it doesn't have any effect how we feel about the ongoing, what you might call the ongoing situation with people never really know what happened to Richey. It doesn't affect how we feel about that, but it affects the responsibility we felt that we had to turn these lyrics into songs, because they were left to us. He'd left them with us at a very kind of appropriate time just before he went missing, and it seemed obvious to us that this was kind of his wish, that they would be turned into some kind of work, in terms of they would be turned into an album or something. So it's affected our sense of, yes, we feel as if we've carried through the responsibility that was left with us with these lyrics.
I think we spent a long time kind of trying to prove ourselves as a three-piece. Not that we've never forgotten Richey. We've never replaced him on stage. We've always, that's not an issue. But I guess after Design for Life, we felt it was up to us now to carry on a slightly different version of the Manic Street Preachers. But I think over the last few years, we kind of realised that symmetry and glory we had as a four-piece, you can never really. We're never going to get that back, but by doing this album with these lyrics, for a short period it did feel we were trying to make some kind of fitting tribute. It would have been pretty awful if we'd made a half-assed musical contribution to such brilliant lyrics. So the real pressure has just been to make a great rock record, and that's what we've been trying to achieve.
Knowing you, there'll be other songs as well for the follow-up, won't there, somewhere in the pipeline, I imagine?
There's a lot of lyrics, because I'm in a purely selfish way. Obviously, I haven't had to write lyrics for this, so I've actually got loads and loads of lyrics stored up. So I don't know if they're any good, but I got lots of them. So I think we will. We're at the kind of creative peak. I think it's because we've all turned 40 and we're all panicking.
You're not having a midlife crisis, are you?
Not a midlife crisis, just
Not in the traditional sense.
No, a creativity crisis. That feel like we got so much to say. We are constantly inspired by the tiny things of life, by travel, by other music, by film, by books. All those things where sometimes you take for granted. We don't. We're just I guess we've learned to appreciate being in the Manics much more than we did.
That's really interesting, yeah.
The one saving grace about turning 40 and not having yet passed your driving test is that you don't get that problem of buying an awful fast car kind of thing.
No, me and James still can't drive. It's pretty embarrassing.
Has Sean become a father again recently?
He has, yes. He had,
please pass on my congratulations.
I shall do. He's it's his third, and he's off duty at the moment. He's having his little downtime, but it's not going to last that long for him.
And Nicky, the last time I spoke to you, you were trying to install the ways of Nottingham Forest in your children. Has that worked?
Yeah, my old top. My boy's 2 now, so I'm trying to get that European Cup winner's shirt on him as well. And fingers crossed that Forest stay up. It's going to be very tough and dicey, I think. But
so.
it'd be a very great shame. But we could all just sit back and watch ESPN Classic and watch all the specials on Forest winning the European Cup anyway.
Absolutely, and all the Cluffy things going on as well at the moment. Yeah. James Dean Bradfield, Nicky White from the Manic Street Preachers, thank you very much indeed.
Cheers. Cheers, mate. It's nice to speak to you again. Hopefully it won't be long till the next one.